I like it because it's simple. She uses longevity foods that improve blood sugar and cholesterol levels. Hi friends, I found some healthy viral cooking videos. Let's watch them, and I'm going to give you some few tweaks to make them even healthier. So the first one is by NutritionByKylie. Now I like this because it's easy, convenient, easy to clean, one pot, and minimal cooking skills.
If you don't like cooking and washing dishes but still want a delicious meal,
that looks good.
One pot meal in your rice cooker. I'm a dietitian and welcome back to Realistic Nutrition Tips. This tip can be extra helpful if you're a college student, someone with limited kitchen space, or even if you're an elderly person who can no longer use the stove.
I like to add, this is also very helpful when you're a busy working mom.
All you need to do is add your rinsed rice and water to a pot.
First of all, I know rice is such a popular dish for billions of people around the world. Her rice is all white, but white rice is a processed food. So keep that in mind. I'll talk a little bit more about that later.
And add some veggies like carrots and bok choy. You don't have to use these specific veggies. You can really use any veggies you want.
I really love the bok choy. That's a cruciferous vegetable. That vegetable has sulforaphanes, and she pre-chopped it before she put that in. That is perfect. Usually I try to chop it first. I kind of walk away, do other stuff. So I let it sit at least 30 minutes, if not more, to allow the enzymes to break down the glucoraphanin in these cruciferous vegetables to convert them to sulforaphanes, which is what our body needs to help us detox.
Some edamame and tofu for protein.
I love edamame and tofu. Tofu is basically mature edamame that's been minimally processed, and it gives this contrasting texture. The tofu is really soft and the edamame has a bite to it.
Then make your sauce. This easy soy-based sauce is going to be savory and so delicious.
She went quite fast. The salt in her sauce is quite high for people who have sodium issues or who have high blood pressure, heart issues, kidney issues. So I've actually stopped using soy sauce because I don't want to train my palate to want that taste. It tastes great. I grew up on that. But now I've switched to miso because miso is really the only sodium that has not shown to elevate blood pressure. In fact, it lowers blood pressure. So if you want to eat salt, try some miso paste and just dissolve it like what she's doing.
Then we're going to mix it.
Oh yes, the garlic and the ginger is perfect. I use it for every single meal that I cook.
Our sauce over.
Now the sugar is not anything I would recommend. There's such healthier replacements. Like instead of sugar, you can use date, like powdered date, which looks like sugar granules, except it's dark colored. Of course, not going to be as sweet as sugar, but it gives that subtle sugary taste that people like when they're eating food. The other thing that I do personally is I have dry fruit all the time. Dried dates are really, really sweet. So I will put some chopped dried dates if I want some sugar to food. I just add it in the water and just totally basically dissolves, almost dissolves, right? There's still fiber in it. And that's why I don't like adding straight sugar, but I really want the nutrients and the fiber. And if you minimize your sugar in your food and you train yourself not to really gravitate towards like straight sugar, then slowly your palate changes and you'll want less and less sugar.
Everything, turn our rice cooker on and relax.
Okay, that is a brilliant idea. So she basically put the grain on the bottom and then she put the vegetables and her protein on top. Everything is actually edible raw. I don't have to worry about sterility because if you wash it, then everything she put in there is edible except for the rice, which, you can't eat uncooked rice. It's going to break your teeth.
Relax until it's done. After about 20 minutes, you'll come back to the most delicious, easy meal. If you're feeling extra fancy, top it off with some green onions and sesame seeds.
Oh, yes. It's a must. Green onions and sesame seeds add to so much fragrance to all Asian cuisine. In fact, I would skip the sesame oil and put sesame seeds when I cook it. And that's actually what I do because I try not to eat processed oil. I know it adds extra flavor to foods, but I personally try to minimize my oils. But I will eat the oil in its original form. So if I want, like, let's say walnut oil, I'll just eat walnuts. If I want sesame oil, I'll just probably ground. If you can ground the sesame, the oils will come out more, right, as you're cooking them. So if you want that flavor, then go for the whole food and put it in the food when you're cooking it.
And since I can just set it and forget about it, it gives me more time to do other things like rot in bed or...
I love that idea where I can just set it and leave. And I do that so often. I usually do it in a pressure cooker where I just set it and leave.
The best part, you can eat it right out of the pot, which means less cleanup.
There's a couple things about eating it right out of the pot. Now that pot is a special cookware. So it's basically a nonstick cookware. And when you have nonstick cookware, you don't want to have metal because that metal can actually break the surface of a nonstick cookware and then you can leach forever chemicals in your food. So number one, if you're going to eat it from the pot, I wouldn't use a metal spoon. Like you could use a wooden spoon. I wouldn't use plastic. Don't use plastic on any hot surface because then you'll melt plastic chemicals inside your food as well. So in college, my friends love cup of noodles. So many people would eat that as a midnight snack when we were cramming for our finals. And one of my friends in the same hall, he basically was talking to me as he was stirring his hot cup of noodle. And it's funny because he was about to eat it. After he finished stirring it, lifted up his fork and it disappeared. Like it basically had melted in the soup. And I actually told him not to eat it, but he actually ate it. So don't use plastic on anything hot. Now I want to go back to her white rice. So white rice is a grain and she paired it with high protein foods because rice is really low in protein. But protein isn't what my problem is with rice. Processed foods is really my problem because processed foods lose so many nutrients. Although tofu is processed, it's really minimally processed. And how I decide which processed foods to eat is really dependent upon what nutrients are left and what else they have added. And although rice is super popular and is really the most common grain consumed by billions of people around the world in all different forms, and I loved rice as a kid, I lived on white rice. You know, I also ate like rice crackers and Rice Krispies and rice Chinese tamales and rice mochi, sweet rice cakes. I mean, all that good stuff. It was really my favorite foods to eat. But unfortunately, white rice is highly processed and is not a good source of nutrients except for carbohydrates. It literally is pure sugar. And so when you eat rice, it turns into pure sugar, even though it doesn't taste sweet. And that's fine if you work out or if you limit your portions, but it really takes the room away from your stomach from eating other more nutritious foods. But the real reason why I avoid rice is because it's high in arsenic. Rice is 10 times the amount of arsenic compared to any other grain. So I basically rarely eat rice because I don't want to collect arsenic. And when I do eat it, I try to buy rice from California or from companies that will test their arsenic levels and tell us, the public. In addition, arsenic, it dissolves in water. So when you cook some of that rice, that arsenic will leach out into water. And that is your golden opportunity to decontaminate your food, to decontaminate that rice by dumping most of that water out and adding fresh water to then finish the cooking process. And that's another reason why I don't cook rice in a rice cooker, because you can't take it out. You don't know when it's boiling and when it's time to change water. You can also rinse your rice several times before you start cooking it. And so between rinsing your rice and then pouring out that first cook water, you can actually remove 60% of the original amount of arsenic in your rice. White rice also lacks B vitamins as well as fiber. And by changing this to brown rice, it actually would be more nutritious and have more fiber and B vitamins. Red and black rice would even be more nutritious due to its polyphenols. However, arsenic is higher in colored rice compared to white rice. Arsenic is a carcinogen, and after you eat arsenic-loaded rice, they can actually measure the arsenic load in your urine. So when you eat white rice, you're essentially eating processed food that's high in arsenic, and that's going to be converted to pure sugar in your blood. That is why I wean myself off of all rice, including rice crackers, rice cereal, mochi. Those are my favorite. I will occasionally eat rice paper, and when I go out, I will occasionally eat a small bowl of rice. It's really a treat for me. I don't make it a staple as my daily food, but I eat grains. I eat lots of whole grains. Grains are great as a nutritious replacement for rice. Some are also easy to cook, and you don't have to worry about the arsenic. You can try quinoa, millet, barley, amaranth, and oat groats. And I personally make a dry batch of all these grains, and then I take a cup of that medley out, and then I would rinse it. You can put that in your rice cooker, and that would be more nutritious, have more fiber, have more vitamin, and be a delicious substitute for your white rice. And now you would have a high protein, high fiber, high phytonutrient grain-based meal to complement whatever you want to put on top. Tofu is a processed soybean, but the processing actually makes it even higher in protein and calcium than the original bean. And I eat some sort of soy protein daily, roughly about 3 servings. Eating soy has actually been shown to reduce the risk of cancers, improve your gut microbiome health, reduce heart disease, reduce blood sugar issues, improve bone health, and postmenopausal symptoms. And I love how she added both soft tofu and paired it with the crunch of edamame beans. And if you don't have edamame beans, you can really add any canned beans, or you can add nuts or do both. Don't use raw beans, as beans have to be soaked and thoroughly cooked until soft to eat, and the rice cooker will not cook your beans thoroughly. You can, however, mix in some of your grains with uncooked lentils, which will cook really fast, and you can use a rice cooker to do that. I always eat cruciferous vegetables every day. Instead of her bok choy, you can add apple cabbage, Italian broccoli, Chinese broccoli. They're all different types of cruciferous vegetables that you can try to pair with this dish. It would be delicious. And in fact, even if you don't add it to your dish, you should eat another bowl separately, as this dish just does not have enough green leafy vegetables to eat for one meal. The green leaves should be at least as big as a portion of grains you're eating. So I do like how she made the blend of colors, the carrots, that sweetness of the carrots complements any dish, and you can use that theme by changing to another sweet root vegetable like beets or daikon or onions or butternut squash. Those are all delicious options. You can actually just put all of that. And I know you may feel overwhelmed that your pot is now a cornucopia of foods. This is my goal. Every opportunity I eat is an opportunity to optimize my variety, optimize my immunity with different kinds of fiber and phytonutrients that are found in different colors of food. And honestly, I try to aim for 30 different whole foods in one day. And if I know I'm not going to finish it within the next day, then I'm just going to freeze those extra root vegetables to preserve its freshness. The second video is from FeelGoodFoodie. Now, I like it because it's simple. She uses longevity foods that improve blood sugar and cholesterol levels.
Whenever I have a lot of random fruit left over, I love making a big fruit salad for the family because I believe if you cut it, they will eat it.
That's actually true. And if you don't cut it, they won't cut it. They won't wash it. They won't go take it out of the fridge. They won't take it out of the container that it's in, unless you have that special kid that will do it. But usually, if you cut it, you put it there, they'll eat more of it.
For this one, I'm using some cherries.
Wow, that looks good. So far, this is absolutely a hit with me.
Strawberries, blueberries.
Okay, blueberries, cherries, strawberries. Talk about anti-inflammatory power. I mean, that right there is brain food.
Kiwi, mango.
Okay, kiwi, delicious. One kiwi has vitamin C of 2 oranges, and they actually did studies on kiwi where it helped to reduce common cold symptoms in children.
Mango and cantaloupe. You really can't go wrong.
Yes, mango, delicious. One of my favorite creamy foods.
Along with any fruits here. Then I add my secret ingredient at the end, which is rose water, and
wow, that's interesting. I've never tried that.
And give it all a good mix. This fruit salad is so much more fun to eat than all the individual fruits. So good.
I totally agree. That looks absolutely delicious. That looks so simple. All these foods that she mentioned are longevity foods. They actually do improve blood sugar and cholesterol. I would eat that whole thing. It's packed with vitamin C. It's rich in antioxidants. It's rich in polyphenols. It's rich in fiber. It helps to hydrate, and it's so colorful to the eye. It's beautiful. My only problem with the food is that I honestly would just eat the whole thing by myself and there would be nothing left. And that's actually my biggest problem, is that I just love fruits and I have to limit myself or I don't have room for any other foods. Now, many people who have insulin resistance, they're afraid to eat fruit. So people who are diabetic or have high blood sugars, they think that it's going to worsen your blood sugars. But in reality, the more fruit you eat, the better your blood sugars will become eventually. And this sounds counterintuitive because fruit is full of sugar. But in reality, fruit isn't just sugar. It's actually packed with fiber. It's packed with water. It's packed with antioxidants. It's very different than agave syrup, honey, or brown sugar, as these things are missing the fiber, the natural antioxidants, as well as the enzymes that prevent your body from releasing all that sugar at once, right? The fiber is kind of a time release capsule. And so it allows the slow release of the nutrients in the fruit. And if all you ate was fruit, you would actually reverse your insulin resistance in a matter of days, as shown by studies done on people feeding them sugary foods. Now, this paper split 23 male medical students into 4 groups with 4 diets. Group 1 got a pretty good high-quality, high-protein diet with lean meat and egg whites. Group 2 had a high-fat diet with oil, mayonnaise, cream, and butter. Group 3, they basically starved. They didn't give them anything, so it was a fasting diet. And Group 4 got a high-carbohydrate diet with oats, brown rice, potatoes, fruit, bread, syrup, candy, pastries. I mean, pretty much good as well as bad carbs. And believe it or not, these carbs have more sugar per ounce than the fruit. So all 4 groups were given a sugar challenge after 2 days, known as a glucose tolerance test. And this is how we diagnose gestational diabetes. Without a sugar challenge, you don't know if you're having more insulin resistance. And look at this graph. People who fasted had the highest glucose levels, followed by the people who ate primarily fat. And surprisingly, the people who ate the high carbohydrate diet, both good and bad carbs, they had the best blood sugars. So this means if you're going to get a glucose tolerance test, don't do it after you fast. And if you want to lower your blood sugars while eating carbohydrates, then it's important to avoid fat as well as excess protein. Now, this study was only 2 days, and clinical studies have shown that diets with added whole fruit improve all sorts of diseases, including those with diabetes. However, fruit juices, fruit-flavored products, fruit processed foods like apple pies, apple bars, they are not real fruit, and they will not lower your insulin resistance. And in fact, those products with added fat will worsen your glucose tolerance, despite the fact that in short term, your glucose will not rise as high, right? I'm sure you've heard people telling you to eat fat with your carbohydrates. Saturated fat is extremely toxic to your mitochondria because that's where your glucose is metabolized. And the body does this on purpose as a safety net to not waste energy. In the old days, pure fat was hard to come by. That means you had to find an animal. But glucose is quick energy, and it's reserved for when you need that powerful burst of energy. So when you have a surplus of energy in your body, when you have excess fat, that tells the body you don't really need to use up the quick energy sources, the sugar, which doesn't really last very long. So the presence of fat turns off sugar metabolism. That is how we are designed. Fat does slow down your digestion of sugar, and it also gives you that false sense of security because you have lower blood sugars when you eat carbohydrates. With fats, this does lower your blood sugar spikes, but the spikes are not as important as the duration of high blood glucose. So if you're wearing a continuous glucose monitor and you notice that every time you eat any carbs, your blood sugar rises, that's actually normal. Everybody's blood sugar rises when they eat carbohydrates that have sugar, that have glucose. And if you didn't, you should really worry that you have an absorption issue, and that's a whole nother medical problem. Scientists still really don't know how high is abnormal. But if you don't eat any other food than fruit, it's really not going to be nutritious. So the goal is to have it a part of a healthy diet. The third video is from PlantYou, and I picked this video because this is really similar to how I put a quick meal together.
Welcome to episode 3 of Quickies, a 20-minute satisfying meal series. We're making crispy black bean tacos. Grab a pan and saute some onion.
Okay, look at all the spices that she's using. I love spices. And everything I make has onions, has garlic. I don't quite know what the powder is yet, but we'll find out. And tomatoes. I love that combination. Oh, it's chili powder.
Some onion and garlic with taco seasoning.
Okay, Nutritional yeast. One of my favorite things to use. People use it for its cheesy flavor. So every time you sprinkle that on your popcorn, in your meals, you're not only getting beta glucans that have powerful immune properties, in a sense, boost your immune system to increase your salivary antibodies, but it also adds so much B vitamins as well as amino acids to really add nutrition to your foods. And notice her onions, they're red onions. And I go for the more colorful foods whenever I have a choice. So if you have white, yellow, or red, go for the red onions. Those extra polyphenols are totally worth it. Now, in addition to what she has, I would add turmeric. I love how she uses all these ingredients to saute first to really flavor her foods. Oh, by the way, onions are one of the best sources of quercetin. Quercetin is an antioxidant that helps to squash inflammation. And it's important that we eat quercetin-rich foods daily. And onions are one of the highest amounts of quercetin. Now, quercetin also helps to stabilize mast cells. Mast cells actually release histamine that causes people to have allergy symptoms. A lot of people are against medication because it reacts on a biochemical level, but really all of our food can be broken down into chemistry and it can affect us. It does affect us, each of us on a biochemical level as well.
Seasonings and tomato paste.
Okay, so the salt I wouldn't put. I think people just eat too much salt. I don't know how much other foods that she's going to put in, but that's quite a lot of salt for that little bit of onions. I guess that's really the only thing that she's put there that you can actually eat separately. So she's probably going to add more food. I do think sodium is a huge problem, and to really increase your health, everybody just needs to minimize the sodium load, especially because it causes high blood pressure and tons of cardiovascular complications, including kidney failure, heart failure, stroke, etc., etc. Not to mention it makes people swell. However, if you want that salt, this would be fine for me. I just use more seasoning and then I don't salt my food. But if you want that taste of sodium, you can use a salt substitute called potassium instead of sodium, or you can use miso paste. And miso paste has been shown to lower blood pressure. That tomato paste is delicious. Usually I try to use heirloom tomatoes. I use fresh tomatoes, but tomato paste is more concentrated so that you'll get a sweeter taste. Now tomatoes, that red color is lycopene, and lycopene is anti-inflammatory. So I try to eat tomatoes and I try to heat it up, because when you heat it up, you can actually help release more of that lycopene. And if you eat it with some oil, she had put some oil in it, and you release it better and you absorb it better.
Paste. In goes some veggie broth and black beans, and then mash.
So I actually would mash my beans outside of the pot. I find it more difficult. So I have a hand blender and I just blend that before I put it in. So I'm not sitting there trying to mash and then I make a mess in my kitchen.
Crumble in tortillas with vegan cheese and pop them in the oven.
Okay, so the vegan cheese, I don't really like. I find that to be highly processed, salty, fatty food. I read all the ingredients because I was trying to find a cheese alternative for my children. They like cheese. I don't like cheese. I've never liked the texture or the taste. So I don't miss it at all that I don't eat it. They like cheese and I was trying to find them like a better alternative. I turned everything around. I read it. There's just way too much saturated fat on vegan cheeses. I do know people can make blend out of tofu, but I've never really put in the effort to do that.
In the oven for about 10 minutes. While the tacos cook, if you want, you can make this 2-minute cilantro yogurt.
Okay, so see how she adds more salt. So I really don't like watching salt because I just feel like people just eat too much salt. And so if you wanted this dressing, I would recommend you add some either potassium salt or you add miso. But I think the cilantro is an excellent idea. I love cilantro sauces, and I don't like vegan yogurts either. I just find that they have just way too much sugar. But I usually will make a cilantro sauce. So my sauce is usually cilantro. I put the garlic like she did, and then I put 1 or 2 soft dates to give it that sweetness. I also will put in tamarind. If you've never tried that, it has more of a sweet and sour taste. It's another fruit. And I'll add ground flaxseed to this to use it as a thickener. And to make it creamy, I'll actually soak some cashew or walnuts to soften it up. So I soak it in about hot water and let that water cool. The lime and lemon is a must. It just adds so much fragrance and freshness to your sauces. I think that was an excellent idea. And so I will put my ingredients all together, blend it up, and that's a delicious sauce for this taco, my taco, or salads. I just really dip it for almost everything.
Yogurt sauce, and dinner is served.
Okay, so that is actually not a complete dinner. I think that's part of a dinner, but you're missing lots of green vegetables. So this is great that it has the protein from the beans and that it has some spices. I mean, excellent. This has more spices than what most people put in their foods. And the sauce is pretty healthy too, but it's missing a whole bunch of leafy greens. And the other thing that's missing is missing fruit. So I don't think any meal is complete without a bunch of leafy greens and fruit. She has the beans. So beans, leafy greens, fruits, maybe some roots, and then nuts and seeds. Now, I'd like to add one more thing about her grain. Now, she didn't mention what kind of tortilla she had, but it looks to me like corn tortilla. So when you're shopping for tortillas, look for a whole corn flour, right? Because you really want the whole grain. And my kids love tortillas, but they really like the white tortillas. So they like the wheat flour tortillas, and that's basically processed food. It's like bread, just in tortilla form. The thing about tortillas is the really like fresh ones, really good tasting ones, a lot of times they put lard in it. That just adds more saturated fat. It's delicious, but it's really not healthy. So just watch out. If you're going to buy a tortilla, try to buy a whole grain tortilla. And if you can buy one that's multi-whole grain, I can say, as well as sprouted, that's even better. And the sauce that I suggested to make, or even her sauce probably, would go so well with vegetables. And if you want to know which vegetables to add, watch my next video.